Colorado signs or he gets a commit from Illinois transfer offensive lineman Zy Crisler. He's a big offensive lineman, 6'6", 335 tackle. Matt, what are your thoughts on Colorado landing this commit?
This kid is a stud. He's got, back-to-back years of all Big Ten recognition.
Yep.
That's a pretty good conference to go back-to-back years, as a young guy and then as a vet. And now he's got a last-year eligibility and he decides to come to Boulder. That's fucking big time. So, there's so much going on in Boulder right now that I can't talk about, but there's a lot also, going on in front of our eyes here, and they're still dominating the transfer portal, and Coach Prime's at the hula bowl and shit, and they don't have an offensive line coach yet, but they're still landing talent that other schools covet. So it just shows you a little bit of what the standard is in Boulder, what the coaching staff that's there doing this job. Back in the day, it used to be like, oh, well, I saw an example like, oh, Belichick's already on the road fucking meeting with kids at their high schools. Well, Coach Prime doesn't have to do that shit. And It doesn't. I love how the first example is Coach Prime doesn't do it.
Yeah.
Well, what does Coach Prime have to do with it? You know what I'm saying? So the haters are going to hate regardless. They're coming out of the woodwork right and left. But this get in the transfer portal is huge. I'll be interested to see where he plays. Do you put him next to Jordan Seaton, or do you just go lock down right tackle?
Yeah, that's a good question.
We'll see what happens up there with the big group they got. But they're going to lose a couple of guys to the portal that maybe didn't pan out or want to go attack a different opportunity, very similar to Savion Washington. Yeah. Savion went to Syracuse last year. Savion actually gets back next week to train with me for the Combine and Pro Day, so I'm excited to work with his big ass again. But, just because they're leaving doesn't mean they're terrible, and just because they're coming in doesn't mean they're great. Let's remember, like, a lot of the linemen that they brought in last year didn't amount to shit. Like that
was my next question.
So we'll see what happens, but I really think this kid is a day one starter immediately. I would imagine he's your starting right tackle, and you just book in the two. But if he's not, Tyler Brown's going to be back. Cash Cleveland's back. They lost the commit, the big white boy.
Yeah, Carter Miller.
I don't know where he ended up going,
but they went to UCF.
Yeah, so look, he wants to go to UCF. Obviously, he wanted to know who the O-line coach is, and they don't know yet. So maybe that was his reasoning. I'm not sure.
Something to do with Load Holt.
Bates ended up going to SMU, so we lost out on that. But there's a lot of other opportunity out there. So, there's a Linkus at the transfer portal. There's a lot of kids out there that are going to go the routes they go. And this is a huge get, bro. This is the kind of get that, kind of tells people that they're still on this trajectory that we want to see where, it's developing into a smart, tough, disciplined, hard-nosed football team at the point of contact. It's very easy to do that if you've got two really good tackles, and Jordan Seaton is as good as they come.
Yeah, no doubt. One thing I want to highlight, we mentioned.
Sorry, everybody. I've been really sick for 2 weeks, so I apologize for sweating like a whore in church.
That's all good, man. We appreciate you doing the show today. And one thing I wanted to highlight, and you kind of mentioned this, just the difference in transfers from last year to this year. Landing a Illinois transfer, Texas A&M transfer. We're really seeing Colorado, despite having an offensive line coach, landing these big time commits. I'm really looking forward to seeing what the offensive line looks like headed into the season with all these new additions. How do you feel about that? I think there's a glaring difference from last year to this year in terms of portal recruiting in the offensive line category.
Yeah, look, the big kid from A&M is a stud too. So there's going to be guys that, and I love this, but they're bringing in tackles. Tackles can play guard. Very rarely can just pure guards play tackle. So as long as you have a smart, tough, disciplined, motivated coach that's going to go out and push these guys in the right direction and breed competition, and really put everybody in a position to go out and get it, then these guys, shit, the sky's the limit on how good they can be, dog. Let's be fucking real. So you can take that big son of a bitch from A&M, who I've already spoken to. He'll be in the gym here very shortly when he gets in as well. When he gets in town, we'll put some hands on him and see if he can go play left guard. So, if we can find a point of attack left guard, maybe this kid can step in and be Your right guard, your really athletic puller that's also your most physical player. The point of attack usually is the left guard, left tackle, with 99.999% of quarterbacks all being right-handed. That makes your right guard the skip puller, the flat puller, the guy that's the garbage man on screen left on Sally, but he's also the cleanup man on screen right, which is crease. So he's always, he's got to be a nasty, twitchy motherfucker. So maybe that's 72. I don't know. And then where's Tyler Brown going to play? He's got one more year eligibility. So, he's not playing tackle. I'll tell you that shit. That's my perfect example of a guard trying to go play tackle rather than a tackle stepping in and playing guard. I love Tyler Brown. He's a fucking stud, bro. Okay. Rock is the man. I'm saying he's a much better center guard than he is a guard tackle. I'd love to see Tyler Brown compete with Cash Cleveland at center, too, with some of these guys they're bringing in, and see just how big and physical you can make the offensive line. Just because Cash Cleveland was a freshman All-American last year doesn't mean that he's going to get, a free pass now in the competition room. That's not the way this works. So Dylan Edwards was a fucking freshman All-American last year. His ass went to Kansas State like that. Now, that's obviously Cash didn't leave. I'm saying that there's going to be immense competition on the offensive line moving forward.
Absolutely. No doubt. And this kid, Crisler, started 12 games at right guard for Illinois last year. So I would guess that he comes in and does play guard. I mean,
he's your point. He's your pointer. He's your puller and the guy that's like we just talked. Exactly what we just talked about, actually.
Amen. One last thing on the offensive line standpoint before we move on here. Khalil Benson entered the transfer portal, and I want to say he went back to Indiana, I want to say.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on this, Matt? Go ahead.
Good for him. Awesome. Back home you go. High five.
It's interesting. You see players leaving, transferring, and then going back to the school they transferred from. Do you have any comment on that?
I literally just said, that's awesome. The kid goes back to where he played. High five. Like, I don't fucking know why he went back, but he's not going to play here with all these guys we got coming in. So yeah, I gave you my answer.
Well, I hear you. I'm curious. Typically, you don't see transfers. I mean, I guess you saw KJ Jefferson do it, but interesting. It's the Wild Wild West college football.